There are not a lot of people who want to spend eternity with me. Jesus does. I can promise you not everybody wants to spend eternity with you. Jesus does. There is no greater affirmation of your life than Jesus Christ. For Jesus Christ says, you're not created to live 60 to 80 years and then become fertilizer. Fertilizer is not God's goal for you. Eternal life in heaven is God's goal for you. And I can promise you, I don't care how many positive think seminars you go to. The fact is that if there is no God, death is the end. Well, guys, if that's true, that says something about you. It says that ultimately your life is meaningless. Because when you die, you rot, and it's over. Jesus Christ affirms your life like nobody else. He says God made you to spend eternity with him in heaven. What an incredible affirmation of your life. And so we're here at Texas State. And too many people are depending on money, sex, booze, a career, athletics, music, art to be their foundation for their lives. Watch out. Every one of those alternatives will fail you. Jesus Christ will not. That is why I'm out here, to communicate Christ is the truth, and the evidence of the way he lived, taught, died, and rose from the dead points to him being the truth. Does that make any sense? Thank you, ma'am, for raising that explanation.
How do we know what's right and what's wrong, right? If he loves something and that's what's holy, then he could have loved anything arbitrarily and made that holy. But if there's something, it's holy and he loves it because it is holy, then that separates that it shows that holiness is above God. So why would we worship a God that isn't the holiest thing? Wouldn't we just... So how is it that Jesus comes into this and fills that slot there? Like, how can he be one or the other?
Yep. Good. Is the abuse of an innocent child ever good?
No.
No. Well, then why are there so many professors and students at Texas State who say morality is relative? If you're convinced that the abuse of an innocent child is wrong, then why are there so many moral relativists on this campus, both in the faculty and students? The point is, you can't live out moral relativism because you know at the depth of your being that the abuse of an innocent child is wrong. Now, the difficult question is, why is it wrong? Who says it's wrong? Oh, because the U.S. Supreme Court says it's wrong to abuse an innocent child. That's why it's wrong. Give me a break. Dred Scott decision, U.S. Supreme Court decided that black folk are 3/5 the value of white folk. So are you really trying to maintain that right and wrong are defined by a culture or a court, a legal system? You're still right in relativism. The only way there can be an objective moral is if there is a mind outside and prior to the human mind who creates and defines human value and the value of justice. Otherwise, guys, it's obvious who creates the value of justice. We do. It's obvious who creates the values of good and evil. We do. Which means it's all relative, depending upon which mind you're talking to. Jesus Christ insists, no. There's a mind prior to the human mind who creates and defines the value of justice. Now, you've raised an interesting question, which some philosophy professors love to throw at students to try and confuse them. And your point is, okay, fine. So is something good and evil just because God says it is? Or is there a value of good and evil that precedes God, that God is then judged by? And the answer to that is very simple. God is an eternal being, without beginning, without end. God's character, which is eternal, defines right and wrong. So no, there is no standard outside of God that defines right and wrong. And no, right and wrong did not begin 1 billion years ago, or 5 billion years ago, or 100 billion years ago. Good and evil have existed throughout eternity because they are defined by the character of God.
But we don't live in an eternity. We live in a limited time frame. So how can it be possible for there not to be some kind of moral freedom, in a sense, within a limited time span?
Well, there is moral freedom. I am free to take this hand that God created and gave me, haul back and slap this beautiful woman in the face. Or I'm free to take out my wallet, give her money for food. Now, if I haul back, slap her in the face and say, God made me do it. Not only I'm a con artist, I'm a liar. God gave me a hand. He gave me a free will, but he created this hand for a purpose, to respect this woman, not to smack her.
So, in that scenario, is it not moral to kill your own son? It is, right? Because God told you to do it.
No, God did not tell the Romans and the Jews to crucify Christ on a cross.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, I think it was Jacob, Abraham, and Isaac, yeah.
Yes.
He commanded him to kill his own son. Therefore, that is the moral thing to do, yes?
No.
So why is that not, if God is the source of what's right and wrong, why is that not the moral thing to do?
Good. When God called, very good question, you're thinking well, I like you. When God called Abraham to sacrifice his son, right in Genesis chapter 22, verse 1 we read, God tested Abraham.
Right.
And at the end of the chapter we read, God stopped Abraham from sacrificing his son.
Perfect. So is there some kind of sin committed if he felt like it was wrong to do it? Because God had commanded it. Whether or not it's a test, it was a commandment from God that he was given. So by internally rebelling against that, is that not some sort of sin?
No, the sin is, I will value my son Isaac above God.
Right.
And that's a sin that I'm tempted to commit as a father. I've got 3 sons, and I love the living daylights out of them. In fact, one of them will be out here starting Wednesday with me. But if I elevate them to worshiping them, that is sinful. I'm to worship God, not my sons. But I have to care for my sons.
Right. Right. So there's some commandments that are more important than others, right?
Well, it depends what you mean by that.
Well, you're putting God up here, like respecting God is this great thing that you must do. Caring for your sons is somewhere down here, because if God commands you to kill your son, you gotta take the upper commandment, right?
Well, wait a second. God never intended for Abraham to kill Isaac. It was simply a test. And the text makes that real clear.
Yeah, it does. But
Right?
I mean, if he had just killed him on the spot, he would have been following God's imperative.
No, God did not allow that to happen, and that was not God's intent.
I think regardless, there's a dangerous thing where you interpret the text as God created a commandment that was only supposed to last until God stopped it, right? That's what he did. He created this imperative to be followed until he was to say stop it. So if God can manipulate what is right and what is wrong for any kind of period of time, how can you say that good and evil is eternal and it's always set and it's always the same?
All right. God says that I am not to murder this man.
Right.
But if I walk into a McDonald's and this guy has a machine gun in his hands and he's spraying bullets into children's bodies in McDonald's, if I hit him high and you hit him low and we break his neck in the process, that is not murder. That is killing motivated by a drive to protect the innocent from being slaughtered.
But we're breaking the commandment, thou shalt not kill.
Good. Which means we got to look at that commandment again. The commandment is not you shall not kill. The commandment is you shall not murder. And there is a difference between me killing to prevent the slaughter of innocent people versus me murdering him because I don't like his beard and his hat.
So
He
what
rubbed
you're
me the wrong
saying
way.
there is a distinction made depending on which translation you look at. I know specifically King James says thou shalt not kill.
Yeah.
So thou shalt not murder is what you're saying. Which translation is that?
Well, it's real simple. In the King James Version, in Exodus 20, when it says you shall not kill, just go to the next chapter. Exodus 21. And God is calling the Jews to kill people for their evil.
Like, why didn't he just, like, stop the bad things from happening? Like, if he's such a good God, like, if Jesus, like, lived such a good life, like, why can't he just take all the bad stuff away and then we would be able to, like, love him, you know? Like, I don't know.
Excellent question. You're thinking well. I do not know, because Jesus never revealed the answer specifically to your question in its entirety. But as a follower of Christ, I have to think. I have no option. As someone who has to deal with parents who've lost a child, as someone who has to sit regularly beside the bed of dying people. And the first point is this. God created you and me to love each other. If love is not free, it is not love. Guys, it's that simple. If you've been dating a young man for the past year, He has said to you regularly, I love you. If tonight your father calls you up and says, honey, I've been paying him $1,000 a week to love you, how would you feel?
I wouldn't feel like he loved me.
Exactly. Funny, isn't it, how that works? If love is not free, it ain't love. So, obviously, when God created us for the purpose of loving Him and loving each other, He limited His power by giving us a free will. Which means, I don't have to love you. I can manipulate you, I can deceive you, I can jerk you around. Or I can freely choose to love you. So what are we saying? We're saying God took a limited risk when He created us with a free will. And what's the risk? The risk is we will not love each other. We'll hate each other. We'll be apathetic to each other. We'll manipulate each other. We'll use each other. And that, friend, is the history of the human race. Beginning with Adam and Eve, flipping God off, saying, God, life's going to be more fun separate from you than together with you. And God says, fine, I respect your free will. But Christ promised there's coming a day of judgment when God will judge us for the way we exercised our free will. Why is there a heaven? Why is there a hell? Because God is good, which means God takes evil seriously and God takes good seriously. I mean, think about it. If there is no heaven or hell, where's Adolf Hitler? And where's Mother Teresa? Where is Adolf Hitler? And where is Mother Teresa? Same place. The fertilizer pit. Which means it doesn't matter what you do with your life. If you want to be Adolf Hitler II, go right ahead. If you want to be Mother Teresa II, go right ahead. Because it all ends in the same place. The fertilizer pit. How kind it was of Jesus Christ to point out, no, God gave you a free will, and you will use that free will to determine whether you live your life together with God or separate from God. And if you choose to live your life separate from God, you will be judged for that, and you'll spend eternity separate from Him. But if you choose to live your life together with Him, loving Him and loving others, then you'll spend eternity with Him.
So then how do I know if I'm living like a good life? Like for me, it's just like, I'm just like spreading like positivity, like doing my thing, like just being a good person. Like how do I know I'm like living a good life for Him?
2 ways. 3 ways, actually. First of all, you know you're living a good life when you're following your conscience and when you don't sear your conscience. Do you know how the Nazis trained their soldiers to gas Jews? One of the ways was they would give Nazi soldiers who worked in Dachau and Auschwitz and Buchenwald little puppies. And the Nazi soldier would bond with the puppy, and then the officer would tell him, break the puppy's neck with your own hands. And so these Nazi soldiers would break the puppies' necks with their own hands. And their officers were very shrewd. They know that if you repeatedly do wrong, you can harden your heart. You can sear your conscience. So if you break enough puppies' necks who you've bonded with, it's not too big a step to start breaking people's necks and gas them into Dachau and Auschwitz and Buchenwald. You and I can do that. I can do evil so many times that I begin to think evil's good. Or I can want to do evil so badly that I will say to you, Jesus never rose from the dead. And if you ask me why I believe that Jesus never rose from the dead, I will not be able to tell you. Well, because I've historically studied the evidence, and I have found that the historical evidence is Jesus never rose from the dead. No, that's not the issue. The issue is I want to do sexually what I want to do. And I know very well that if Jesus Christ rose from the dead, He's the truth, which means I'm going to have to change my sexual behavior. And I don't want to do that. I'm not interested, thank you. So I'm going to hide behind some intellectual smokescreen that says Jesus never rose from the dead. Not because I've studied the issue and found the evidence lacking, instead because I want sexual freedom, which means I want to do whatever I want to do sexually. My choice. My choice to do whatever I want to do. And that's tragic. That is so narrow-minded and bigoted, it's scary.